Hey everyone, this video is for November 30th or December 1st, coming back from Thanksgiving break. Hope you all had a great long weekend with your family, eating lots of good food and sleeping. Today I have a couple announcements for us to start off with. A review game over classification, which we started last week. I have some notes over bacteria and viruses, and we're ending with our assignment where you teach me about viruses and bacteria. With us going 100% virtual, we were told to keep students on Zoom for the whole period, or at least meet up at the start and at the end. So you are required to stay on Zoom for the whole period. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be talking the entire period. My goal is to give you a good portion of time to work on assignments and get stuff done. In order to be dismissed, you must have all of your missing assignments turned in and the current day's work. So if I assign you something today, you need to work on it and finish it before you are allowed to leave. When you are ready, just send me a message through Zoom. I'll check that your stuff is in, and I'll dismiss you if you meet those requirements. Because you are required to stay on the entire time, I'll still be utilizing breaks. So instead of a mask break, I want to spend 5 to 10 minutes each period dedicating that time to just stepping away from our devices, going on a restroom break, stretching, taking a drink of water, whatever you need to give yourself a break from looking at the screen all day. After the announcements, our next point on the agenda was to do the classification review game. Now, if you were with us in class, we did it together. If not, I would still like you to do it. It's a quick 5-question review game, and I did put a link on here for you. So if you go to our modules, go all the way down is week 16. It's the classification review in case you missed it on Monday or Tuesday. So you just click on that. If you were not here on these days and didn't get to do the review game together, click on this link. It'll take you to the quizzes page, and you just play your game normally. And when you're done, you're done. Next on our agenda are notes. So today we're going to start talking about pathogens and bacteria and viruses specifically, and we're going to do some notes. On Canvas, I have created a document for you to follow along with if that's what you would like. You can find that on modules all the way down to Unit 5, right underneath that classification review I just talked about. It's right here. You can either do your own notes if you like to handwrite your notes or do your own thing. That's totally fine. But I did create this document. Just a quick 8 questions. It's not a very long slides presentation. You just fill those out and go back here and submit them when you are done. You can follow along with the slides presentation here. I've linked it in. Or if you are an auditory learner, if you like to listen to the explanations of the notes, I will do that now. Okay, so hopefully we have some form of notes open, at the very least this document that I have here for you. We're going to go ahead and start with these notes. So today we're going to talk about pathogens. So for numbers 1 and 2, what are pathogens, or how would you define them? A pathogen is literally any living thing, any organism that can cause disease. There are 4 main types of pathogens. We have bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Today we're going to focus on the first 2 mainly. So we're going to talk about what the difference is between bacteria versus a virus. So remember last week we were talking about classification. We watched that Amoeba Sisters video, and it talks about the 3 huge domains. They're like the biggest boxes that you can categorize organisms. And we have bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. We're going to focus on the bacteria domain today. Bacteria are prokaryotes. So as a reminder, we did talk about this a few units ago. Prokaryotes lack a nucleus. They don't have that nucleus in the middle of their cell like eukaryotic cells do. They're unicellular, so these organisms are made up of one cell, not the millions or trillions like we have. And they're very simple in structure. They're just one cell, one simple cell, no nucleus. They're very, very simple. Most bacteria take the shape of the shapes you see below. So we have a helix, very similar to the DNA structure, where it's that twisted shape. We have the spheres. We have the little round spheres. And we have our rods, which look kind of like pill capsules, like the long, round shape. And that was number 3. For number 4, about what is harmful about bacteria, there's lots of things. Bacteria, which we also commonly refer to as germs, can potentially cause infection and sickness. Bacteria is everywhere. They're on all kinds of surfaces, like on a deck, your skin, your phone, all the tables and chairs that you sit on. Everything that you touch has bacteria. And there's also bacteria that are airborne, that just hang out in the air that we breathe. Bacterial infections can range from being very severe to just mild and harmless. Different types of bacteria cause different types of infections. That kind of makes sense. And they have the possibility of multiplying in the thousands in just hours, which is how you can get so sick so fast. Here I've included some examples of these bacteria. An example of foodborne bacteria is like E. coli. So if you ever eat something and you feel sick, like you have food poisoning, it could possibly be E. coli. There are other options too, not just that one. An example of a skin bacterial infection would be like streptococcus, strep throat. So those lesions in your esophagus. And sexually transmitted infections can also be bacterial infections. Things like syphilis can be caused by bacteria. What makes bacteria super cool is that they're not all harmful. We usually think of bacteria as being really bad, but there's actually really beneficial bacteria as well. There's bacteria that live on your skin to help you fight off more harmful bacteria. You have millions of bacteria in your stomach that help you digest foods. A fun fact is that we actually cannot digest vegetables, things like leafy greens like lettuce and celery. We can't digest those naturally. We actually have bacteria in our stomach that helps digest it for us. We can actually use bacteria to make foods like cheese and yogurt, and we use bacteria to make medicines like antibiotics and maybe even vaccines. Fortunately, there are treatments for bacterial infections. There's a lot of antibiotics that you can use: amoxicillin, doxycycline, azithromycin. Some are topical, so if you have like a skin bacterial infection, you might have something more of a lotion or cream, but many others are in pill form. However, some bacteria can actually become resistant to antibiotics if you don't use the medication correctly. So if you take the medication wrong or you don't finish your full cycle, all the bad bacteria may not be killed off and might actually learn to resist that antibiotic, so it may not work the next time. So anytime you go to the doctor and they give you medicine, take it correctly and take it completely so that bacteria does not become resistant to that antibiotic. So potentially you can use it in the future and it'll still be effective. Next, we're going to move on to viruses. Viruses actually aren't living things at all, so they're not going to be classified under bacteria, archaea, or eukarya. They are not alive. And they aren't alive because they need a host to live. They cannot live by themselves. They are dependent on something else. Something interesting about viruses is that once you contract a virus, you will always have it. It never leaves your body. So this is a little bacteriophage, kind of what we think of when we think of virus. All viruses have their own DNA that they shoot into the host cell. Viruses will shoot that DNA into our cell. That DNA will combine with our DNA so that every new cell has a piece of that virus's DNA inside our DNA. So it literally never leaves our body. What's harmful about viruses is they can be super contagious. Things like COVID-19 and the flu are examples of viruses that spread very easily. They also attack specific parts of our body. So HIV into AIDS attacks our immune system. And while people who live with HIV or AIDS end up not necessarily dying from AIDS, they die from infections that we can normally fight off when we have a good immune system. But since theirs is compromised, they actually can pass away from a common cold or pneumonia. The Ebola virus is another one that attacks specific parts of the body. It leads to a lot of severe internal bleeding and can cause organ failure. Another thing is viruses can't be cured, only treated. So antibiotics don't work on viruses. Vaccines are proven to be very effective for treating viruses. So what a vaccine does is expose your body to the virus. So vaccines are dead or weakened versions of the virus. So we introduce that into the immune system. So it kind of gets a feel of what that virus looks like, how do you fight it, so that if it ever does come in contact with it, it'll know exactly how to fight it off and fight it off well. It's kind of like when you go into a quiz or a test and you study. If you study for that content, you know exactly what to expect. You know exactly how to get a good grade. If you go into it blindly without never looking at the information, you won't be able to do what you need to do to succeed. Same things go with viruses. And that's it for the notes. When you are done taking notes on this, please make sure to go back to Canvas and turn them in so I can give you some points. The last thing on today's agenda is our You Teach Me assignment. You can find this assignment under modules again, right underneath where you turned in your bacteria versus viruses notes. So you'll click on that. In a very, very simplified way, what you're going to do in this assignment is research a few questions about bacteria and viruses, then create a video and Google Slides teaching me what you've learned. So if you open this document, it kind of tells you a little bit about the entire thing. So you are becoming the master. So you're going to teach me about what you've learned about bacteria and viruses. So there's two main parts. You have to create a video and you have to create a Google Slides. In a video, you're going to answer the questions in your own words. So I know you're going to be looking up information from websites, and you can even use my notes, but your video should be very conversational, like you're just talking to me about what you've learned. Should not be something that seems very forced, like you're reading it directly from anywhere. Should be very flowy. You'll also have a presentation, a Google Slides presentation, and you need at least 3 slides. Now, we can do this one of 2 ways. So if you use Canvas Video to make your video, or if you record it on your phone, whatever works for you, a lot of the times you can't really share your screen and talk at the same time. Now, if there is a way to do it that way, awesome, do it. But if not, what you can do is use your video, whether it's on Canvas or if you record it on your phone, turn that in and, act like you're going through the Google Slides like normal. And also just turn in your Google Slides in addition to the video so I can look at your Google Slides while you're talking me through them. Or I am going to upload an instructional video on how to use WeVideo. And this is a very helpful video editing site that does allow you to share your screen and narrate. And that's how I make these videos. is using WeVideo. So you can do it that way. I say at least 3 slides because one should be about bacteria, one should be about viruses, and the last one should be the resources that you used. So if you used a website, my notes, I just need you to let me know what you used. And this video should be at least 1 minute long, talking about both of these topics. Here are the questions that I want you to answer about bacteria and viruses. About bacteria, I want you to tell me, how can you tell if an infection is bacterial or viral? I want you to tell me, what are a few characteristics of bacteria? So what do they look like? What do they do? Are there any special features? And how do you think a vaccine works? For viruses, I want you to tell me, why are viruses so permanent? I also want you to tell me, what characteristics does COVID-19 have that they share with viruses? So what makes COVID-19 a virus? And how do vaccines help in the fight of viruses? And that's it. You'll make a presentation on Google Slides answering those questions, and then you'll create a video teaching me what you've learned. That's it. If you have any questions about anything, please don't hesitate to let me know. Good luck